Alright, hello everyone and welcome to game number 1, or I guess round number 1, because there's a round robin 1v1 tournament. This time we're going to be featuring Blackmagic and Deathtacticus, and this map, it is a medium map this time. Probably just going to let that be because I didn't catch it in the settings. And we'll just switch to small later on. Deathtacticus has found a nice little scientific spot for himself. He is going to be throwing down on plenty of iron to get steel production started. He's got a giant patch of water, which has some high tiles in it, so if he needs water pumps, he'll be able to get those quite easily. But of course, as a scientist, he'll also be able to use that water to immediately convert it into food, fuel, and oxygen. So he has going to have a nice path forward to this game. Meanwhile, Blackmagic, on a less desirable patch of land, it would seem initially. We've got only a high iron tile really working his way right now. He's got a little aluminum nearby, but he's probably not going to want that when there are highs elsewhere on the map. A little carbon nearby as well. Primary advantage of Blackmagic seems to be that he is near this dry ice, and so he will be able to access that pretty easily for oxygen and carbon. That's always a nice thing to be able to do, especially in a game without a scavenger. Having access to that carbon, very, very important. Now, we also note that there aren't really great carbon tiles anywhere on this map. They're just lows. They can get some decent adjacency, but it's not really what you want to be taking if you can, in fact, avoid it. Access to the black market for Blackmagic, not going to be using that anytime soon, quite likely. Deathtacticus did go ahead and take some water pumps immediately. You can see that water price started very, very high. He's managing to knock that down quite quickly with these water pumps, and that's going to be great for him. Just a nice little influx of cash lets him very, very easily make some quick money, keep moving through the game fairly effectively, transition into food or fuel later. Downside to this is, if he sells off this water, he is going to be in a position where he has let Blackmagic access to those life support resources. So what Deathtacticus is doing is he's not selling water, he's in fact buying water. Because what he wants to do is try and push Blackmagic to the point where he takes some less than desirable water tiles. Blackmagic then gets sold out from under him. And because Deathtacticus has a large stockpile of water, he immediately knocks that price to $1 at that point and simply continues on his merry way making food regardless. Just a nice way to maybe waste one of Blackmagic's claims at this stage of the game. Blackmagic kind of catches on to what's happening. You can see that he was going to take this high water pump, decides not to, realizes, oh, DT's saving up all kinds of water. I don't want to do that. I don't have to do that. So instead, it looks like he has sent the claim to extra iron for the moment. His iron got frozen. Deathtacticus switched to playing with the iron market. You can see this is what happens when you get a lead in Offworld. If you can play with these markets, Deathtacticus holding up that iron price very effectively, and he had frozen Blackmagic's one source of iron with an EMP. So Blackmagic attempts to transition into additional iron on non-frozen tiles. Unfortunately for him, Deathtacticus will also be freezing out that, and so Blackmagic, a little stuck in the mud, a little dead in the water, as it were, at this point, unable to do much of anything, simply collecting 1 aluminum a second and 2 silicon a second, neither of which is particularly valuable. Blackmagic, he looks to be in a very, very poor position at this stage of the game. I don't want to quite call it unrecoverable, but to be entirely honest, we're starting to push that direction. Getting frozen twice in a row like that back on HQ level 2, almost all of your claims disabled because of it, is not a position that you can survive easily. And this is the thing. Blackmagic was not quick to found his robotic headquarters after Deathtacticus got on the board. Blackmagic didn't seem to have a backup plan, didn't seem to have anywhere else that he was comfortable with after Deathtacticus took the initial strong location that he did. And so because of this, Blackmagic ends up in kind of an awkward position where he's not able to move through headquarter levels quickly. He's not able to build up cash quickly because he spent so much time staring at the map instead of just getting on the board. And that's really, really cost him at this point because, of course, the further behind you are, the more behind you are inclined to get. And so you really need to be able to keep up very effectively with your opponent here. and things just were not working out for him at all this game. We're going to see a small transition into glass furnaces. I can definitely get behind this with these warehouses down. and Deathtacticus having already bought up a good 80 glass this game, could work out okay for him. I guess Deathtacticus bought up 60, started with 20. Regardless, there's been a little bit of pressure going on that market. And so Blackmagic will have a little bit of a source of income here with this silicon that he's built up. Now, Deathtacticus kind of has access to this market as well, but he does not seem to have the claims to exploit it for the time being. He's got some geothermal plants coming online, though. Those are going to help him a lot, as Deathtacticus has dipped into sea levels of debt with that interest tick. This is something he definitely needed to prioritize, and so I'm glad to see him doing it, getting these geothermal plants online. They are defended with goon squads as well, and so he's going to be in a position to pay down a fairly large amount of this debt very quickly, as Blackmagic is not in power production just yet. He's going to honestly need to consider solar panels, I think, in just a moment here. Could be a very, very nice tool for him to try and move back into this game. But for the time being, Deathtacticus, he's the one in the power, and power is very expensive. A little bit of surplus, not what Deathtacticus is going to want to be seeing. We'll just have to see where everything lands after this. You can see that despite the fact that, yeah, Deathtacticus is the one in C, Blackmagic really doesn't have all that much less debt. Deathtacticus only about 20,000 more in it, and Deathtacticus, he's going to be paying that off very rapidly with the second geothermal online, over 500 a second being paid off at this point from his power. Just a little bit coming in from the fuel and oxygen that he'll likely want to start cleaning up on HQ4 whenever he can manage to push there, which shouldn't be too far away. Not super far off. He's waiting on the glass in particular, as Blackmagic has enough pressure on this market to push it down right now with just these two glass kilns, because of course he doesn't need glass himself as a robot. So Deathtacticus is just playing it patiently. He'll be able to sell out of a fair amount of silicon after Blackmagic pushes the price up with these solar panels. Pretty easily go ahead and transition and buy into that glass that he needs, move to HQ4, and he'll have options from there. In particular, I imagine he will be looking at reactors. Solar Flare is going to be pretty great for Blackmagic right now. He is hit by a slowdown strike to counteract this a little bit, but of course that means his solar panels are simply working at 100% efficiency now, with their additional adjacency bonuses added on to that. So that's going to be just fine for Blackmagic. Not what Deathtacticus wanted to see. Not only does that let Blackmagic get in on this power market, start getting in some of these profits, you can see this price dropping very rapidly now. It means that Deathtacticus just isn't making nearly as much money anymore. That's not a position Deathtacticus wanted to be in. He really wants to be paying off this debt quite effectively. Make sure that he is solidly out of that C and D ranking. Also, I want to apologize for the fan that's going on right now. I didn't disable it before I started the broadcast, and I'll go turn it off after this game. So, reactor transition actually going to be coming out of Blackmagic first. Steel price was a little bit low. You can see Deathtacticus, though, with his upgrade, has managed to push it back up, along with, of course, this transition with these electrolysis reactors. This is going to allow Blackmagic to push into a hologram that isn't actually anything. He'll have to see if he can trick Deathtacticus with this to attacking it with dynamite, EMPs, mutinies, anything like that. Just a little bit of a trick. But he will have that hologram later on. Deathtacticus is going to need to remember that that's there and make sure he is paying close attention to that tile if he can identify it as the hologram that it is, which should not take long. Whenever Blackmagic makes transitions here, this tile is going to go a little wonky, and so it shouldn't be too long before Deathtacticus can figure this out. Deathtacticus still, I would say, at a significant advantage at this stage of the game. He was hit by a slowdown strike, hurting some of his income on this fuel and oxygen. However, steel is going very, very strong for him, and you can see that he just keeps buying into steel, guaranteeing that Blackmagic will not be able to easily transition. Blackmagic, he would need to buy $44,000 of steel just to be able to make his transition right now, and that is definitely not an option for him. He is going to just move into a little more glass. Interestingly enough, he was valuing that adjacency bonus on that glass more than the high iron tile. I'm not sure how I feel about that exactly. Now moving back into some more steel mills. Once again, I don't really like this positioning here. There's a high iron in here. No, did it get... Yeah, it's a high iron still. So 2 iron on this tile. Instead, he's picking up the 1. And all he's gaining from this, I think, is a single 25% efficiency bonus from this positioning, instead of just simply doubling his iron output here. He does have a significant amount of iron stockpiled up, but that will start draining very rapidly with 6 steel mills coming online. So just something Blackmagic is going to need to consider if it would have been worthwhile switching these around, making sure that he's getting as much iron as he can. Okay, Blackmagic has bought up a rather large amount of water. Not going to be hurting Deathtacticus too badly, of course, because Deathtacticus, he doesn't actually consume water for any of this production. So Blackmagic, he's going to have to be very careful with this. We can see Deathtacticus is moving into a water pump in response, just making sure that I can make sure to pick up some of that resource if it is that valuable. Turns out it's not. No skin off his back. He's just going to go ahead and keep on with the water pumps for now. I imagine he'll might want to move out of these and back into what he had earlier, because the water pumps aren't going to be doing too well. Just a nice little play out of Blackmagic, forcing kind of a less than desirable transition out of Deathtacticus. Blackmagic, though, still in a lot of trouble. He now has more debt. Deathtacticus, with those geotherms, managed to push through. Knock down that power price very, very far for one thing, and for another, managed to pay off plenty of debt with it. So he's going to be looking to be in a great position at this point. HQ 5 to HQ 4. 5 having been hit first. Never a position you're going to be comfortable to be in. Blackmagic, he's trying to hang on. He's trying to hang on, but this is going to be an uphill battle from minute one, no doubt about that. Moving into a little more glass at this point. Not a bad idea. Glass is going to be pretty expensive here, but I think some of that, yeah, DT's already in glass himself. It's a decent decision, but I don't know if it's one that's going to actually pull you back into the game very effectively. I'm also very concerned about this food price, because I do believe that's not the real price of food. You can see Deathtacticus has this up at 300, and it doesn't really hurt Blackmagic that this price is so high. But it's a bit unfortunate for him that he can't really get into this market, try and get some of that away from Deathtacticus, because this food that Deathtacticus is holding on to, it just keeps going up in value each moment, because of course there are these habitats here consuming it. Their consumption is going to drive up this price, and that's going to be absolutely fantastic for Deathtacticus. Deathtacticus also has a patent lab at this point positioned over here. He's picked up thinking machines. Blackmagic took superconductor. Yeah, Blackmagic says this was over unfound. I think that's true, although I think that is mostly because Blackmagic found it so late. I think he could have done something with it had he found it more rapidly in response to Deathtacticus taking the obvious sweet spot on the map. So that is 1-0 on over to Deathtacticus. Fairly quickly done. Blackmagic does eventually just give it up, quite understandably, and that's going to be round number 1 wrapped up for us here. Alright, so very quickly, I don't know if we need to go over charts and graphs. I mean, look, Deathtacticus had territory and Blackmagic didn't. It's actually that simple.